At 6:11 in the evening, the cul-de-sac smelled like heaven and sounded like a NASCAR pit stop. I reversed a full-size trailer hog roster into my driveway. Chrome fenders flashing, chimney puffing, Bluetooth thermometer singing a cheerful digital tune while Beverly HOA president and full-time smoke alarm sprinted down the sidewalk in foam garden clogs, shrieking about a combustible parade. Her schnauzer, a nervous little thing named Precious, yapped frantically from the end of a rhinestone leash. Beverly's face had turned the color of a fire hydrant, and she was waving what looked like another one of her laminated documents above her head, like she was surrendering to an army of barbecue enthusiasts. My name is Nolan Pierce. I am a software engineer who works from home, and I moved to Laurel Crest 6 months ago to read on my porch, grill on weekends, and generally mind my business. The neighborhood seemed perfect at first. Quiet streets lined with maple trees, tidy lawns, and the kind of peaceful suburban silence that makes you forget the chaos of city living. That lasted exactly 3 weeks until Beverly, the kind of woman who keeps a citation pad in her apron and probably sleeps with a highlighter under her pillow, decided my propane grill was exactly 13 in too close to my back wall. She knocked on my door one Saturday morning while I was flipping burgers, handed me a typed violation notice with trembling hands like she was serving a warrant, and informed me in a voice dripping with false concern that I was creating a fire hazard that threatened the entire community. She slid a notice beneath my doormat the next day like a parking ticket on a Hot Wheels car. The violation came with a grainy photo of my grill taken from what must have been her upstairs bathroom window, complete with a passive-aggressive Bible verse about hearths and responsibility printed at the bottom in decorative script. The notice demanded I relocate my grill immediately or face escalating fines. I measured the distance myself. My grill was 22 in from the wall. The actual county code required 18. I was completely compliant. I emailed Beverly with photos, measurements, and a copy of the county ordinance. She replied within minutes, saying the HOA had stricter standards and that county codes were merely suggestions for responsible homeowners. Cute, Beverly escalated, like a drone with a fresh battery and a vendetta. Over the next 2 weeks, she walked her schnauzer, Precious, directly onto my lawn for surveillance purposes, pausing to take measuring tape, selfies over my fence, while the dog left little presents on my grass. She mailed me laminated printouts of the Laurel Crest Exterior Flame Ordinance, a document that sounded official, but which, fun fact, does not exist anywhere outside her personal printer and imagination. I checked with 3 different board members. None of them had ever heard of it. One of them quietly apologized and said Beverly had been making up rules for years. She announced to the neighborhood Facebook group that I was stockpiling propane and creating a potential disaster zone, which, funnier fact, was one standard 20-pound tank and a Costco membership. The post included a poll asking residents if they felt safe with dangerous individuals in the community. Then she taped a Red Sea sizzle tag on my grill handle like she had been deputized by Weber itself, complete with an official-looking HOA stamp that she had clearly ordered online. On Tuesday morning, she finally called in what she probably imagined was the cavalry. She filed a hazardous appliances complaint with the fire department, describing my setup as a commercial-grade operation in a residential zone. Then, because Beverly apparently reads sensational prepper blogs and conspiracy forums. She called the ATF tip line to report pressurized cylinders in what she termed a residential blast corridor. I know this because the fire marshal told me later, shaking his head in disbelief. The fire marshal, a patient man named Rodriguez with 30 years of experience, arrived at my door around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He looked at my completely code-compliant setup, then at Beverly's glossy printouts that she had prepared like a prosecuting attorney, including one photo where my grill was magically positioned 6 in closer to the siding than it actually was. My driveway cameras, front, side, and installed specifically because raccoons kept getting into my trash, helpfully showed Beverly herself hopping my fence at 5:12 in the morning, wearing gardening gloves and oven mitts, her face set in determined concentration as she nudged my grill closer to the house, like she was moving a chess piece in some elaborate game. The footage was crystal clear. She had even paused to check her measurements with a tape measure before scurrying back over the fence. Trespass, evidence, tampering, filing a false report. Ding, ding, ding. The marshal's face went from professional courtesy to genuine shock as he watched the footage on my phone. He asked me to email him a copy immediately. The marshal's eyebrows performed a full sit-up as he processed what he had just witnessed. He walked outside, had a very pointed conversation with Beverly on my front lawn while she sputtered protests about community safety, and then proceeded to cite the HOA itself for 3 actual legitimate fire hazards. The clubhouse, which Beverly managed personally, had daisy-chained extension cords powering a decorative fountain that she had installed without permits. There was a commercial-grade turkey fryer, the kind used for frying whole turkeys at festivals, stored directly under the clubhouse stairs, blocking the fire exit. And my personal favorite, there was a collection of 5 red gasoline cans in an unlocked shed behind the clubhouse, labeled in Beverly's handwriting as landscape aesthetics, which the marshal informed her was both a fire code violation and possibly an environmental hazard. A patrol car rolled up 20 minutes later for the trespass complaint. The officer, a young woman who looked like she had seen every variety of suburban nonsense, watched my surveillance video twice, the second time zooming in on Beverly's face. She sighed like a tired parent dealing with children fighting over toys, then walked over to where Beverly stood, clutching Precious like a furry shield, and handed her a neat little summon for criminal trespass. Beverly's mouth opened and closed like a goldfish. She tried to explain that she was simply ensuring compliance, but the officer cut her off politely and suggested she might want to consult an attorney. Meanwhile, the marshal told me that if I wanted to cook outdoors, just keep it 10 feet clear and maintain proper ventilation. 10 feet, I repeated, smiling slowly. Got it. Saturday arrived, sunny and perfect. I towed in the trailer hog roaster, a magnificent, legal, fully permitted, professionally baffling beast that I had rented from a catering company that specialized in large events. It was a mobile smoker unit mounted on a custom trailer, complete with a stainless steel chimney, temperature gauges that looked like they belonged on a submarine, and a Bluetooth thermometer system that could alert me via phone app. I parked at exactly 12 feet from every structure on my property, measured twice just to be sure, and invited the entire street via hand-delivered flyers for pulled pork and gratitude to our first responders The response was immediate and enthusiastic. Neighbors I had barely spoken to came by with side dishes and cold drinks. The fire crew came by for a plate around 6, still in uniform. The marshal himself inspected my setup with an infrared thermometer and a measuring tape, signed off on my temporary cooking permit with a flourish, and asked for seconds of the pulled pork. He mentioned that it was the best barbecue he had had in years. Then the HOA board meeting, which had been scheduled for the clubhouse, but relocated to folding tables in my front yard due to the fire code violations, imploded in spectacular fashion when the board secretary read aloud an email from Beverly sent earlier that week. In it, Beverly threatened to spark change by personally adjusting my grill if the board did not take immediate action against me. The email was titled Operation Compliance. The board members stared at each other in horror. The vote was immediate and unanimous. The board removed Beverly as president on the spot, effective immediately, citing gross misconduct and potential criminal liability. The marshal, who had stayed for the meeting out of what he called morbid curiosity, served the HOA with a comprehensive list of remediation orders for the clubhouse. The violations had to be corrected within 30 days, or the building would be condemned as a public safety hazard. The crowd of neighbors, now numbering about 40 people with plates of food, applauded. Beverly tried to speak, her voice rising to a screech about ungrateful neighbors and conspiracy against her leadership. But my Bluetooth thermometer chirped on at that exact moment, drowning her out with a sweet, democratic sound of perfectly smoked meat. Someone laughed. Then everyone laughed. Beverly stomped off toward her house, Precious trotting behind her. The schnauzer looking back at the crowd like it wished it could stay for the party. By Monday morning, Beverly had received a misdemeanor criminal trespass charge, a $4,850 fine for filing a false emergency report that wasted city resources, mandatory fire safety training that would take 6 months to complete, and thanks to a judge with an apparent sense of humor and a love of irony, a restraining order placing her a minimum of 30 feet from any barbecue device, grill, or outdoor cooking apparatus of any kind. The order specifically included, and I am quoting directly from the court document, smokers, hibachis, portable fire pits, and even novelty flameless candle